Hello.
Hi.
Hi. You're listening to the Midnight Movie Gang. It's almost 10 p.m., so not quite midnight, but we're getting there. I'm your host, LC Hines. My pronouns are he, him.
I'm Courtney. Pronouns are they, them.
Yeah. If this is the first episode you're listening to, then welcome. So today we're here to talk about a new I guess it's kind of a biopic.
It's a biopic, yeah.
Yeah. Called Priscilla. About Elvis Presley's first wife, Priscilla Presley, formerly Priscilla. Oh, I can't pronounce that. They said it multiple times in the movie.
Yeah, I have no idea how to pronounce her actual last name.
Bolu or maybe Boleu?
Yeah, I don't know.
That, yeah. And it's about...
Because she's always gone by Priscilla Presley, even after they got divorced.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's kind of...
to my knowledge.
Yeah. And the movie's kind of about... it's pretty much about her relationship with Elvis, but yeah, I mean, do you want to kind of go deeper into the plot of this one, kind of what happens and just like what people can expect?
Yeah, so this is the movie that we needed about Priscilla Presley, and I'm hoping that it starts a movie trend for all of the women. I'm looking at Sofia Coppola to do a movie about Yoko Ono next, because that'd be cool. But anyway, Priscilla is a biopic, as LC said, about Priscilla Presley and how it starts when she meets Elvis in the beginning, chaperoned by a man who is also stationed in Germany where she is. So she had to move to Germany with her family because her father is stationed there in the, I think, army.
Yeah, this just says U.S. military.
Yeah.
They're doing something over there.
Right. And she's just hanging out at a diner doing homework, and this man named Terry, who's also stationed at this location, says that he's friends with Elvis Presley, and Elvis would probably like to meet her. Her 14-year-old girl. Right. She's 14 years old, and basically this man is like a friend of Elvis Presley, quote unquote, who like is definitely scouting for a young girl for him to groom. And basically Terry goes through some rigmarole with Priscilla's dad to be like, I'll promise to protect her, sir.
She'll be fine.
She'll be fine, sir. And
at this party where there's going to be drinking and tomfoolery.
And adults. Everybody else there is an adult. But yeah, she meets Elvis Presley at this party, and she, subsequently has a crush on him, as a 14-year-old girl does, and she knew about him previously. Like, it is very important to know that she was a fan of Elvis Presley, was very, like, of course she was the perfect age group, and she was an isolated young girl because she had just moved to Germany.
No friends.
Like, she was perfectly isolated and poised to be groomed by Elvis Presley. And she was. And subsequently, she keeps meeting up with him. Her parents are a little leery of it at first. They're not thrilled at first about the idea of hanging out with Elvis Presley, who is at this point 24 years old. And again, she is 14. Mm-hmm. But eventually she does the like, Mama, I love him kind of thing. And he promises her dad that he'll take care of her, blah, blah, blah. Stupid shit like that. Yeah, what else?
I assumed at a point that maybe the parents were getting paid off.
Maybe.
For her time.
Maybe.
Like, that's like I think that there was like other things, or even beyond that, just like them being like, well, baby, like maybe the dad being like, well, it is Elvis, like, it'll get her notoriety.
He does, like, there are undertones throughout where it's like, well, yeah, we expected to marry her off at some point. Why not now? Also, I think part of what gives Elvis this like credibility with her dad is that he is also a quote unquote army man. Like, he is stationed there as well for a brief amount of time. And so I think that her dad is more apt to trust based on like weird faux masculinity stuff. But yeah, she eventually goes to visit him back in Graceland, and eventually petitions to stay there with him, and he promises her parents that he will make sure she gets enrolled in a school, because again, she's a child.
16 at that point.
16 at that point. And
he's 26.
And he is 26. Yeah, I want to keep mentioning ages because it's very important. And we'll get into it a little bit later, but one of the things that I loved about this movie was that Sofia Coppola never let us forget how old she was. Like, all of the things that happened between her and Elvis are juxtaposed by her doing like homework and like being told she's so young, because she is.
People in the background like whispering and mentioning
it. Yeah. But yeah, so eventually she moves to Graceland. She is taken care of by Elvis's family while he's on tour. She finishes high school eventually, and they get married. There's a lot of scenes of them like basically hanging out in Elvis's bed, and it seems that he had like a complex about like wanting to stay celibate before marriage or something like that.
I was thinking the whole time he was just waiting for her to turn 18.
You think?
Like, just to avoid the legal, because I kept kind of waiting for the like for the scene, because they kind of like marked like what year it was and how old she was. I'm like, oh, once she turns 18, he's gonna be all over her.
Right.
And like they never really make. We never really know exactly when they have sex for the first time. Like they don't show it. But I mean, I think like at least the way it's portrayed in the movie, for him, it's like way less about having sex with her. It's more just like about having it's about having someone to control.
Right. Absolutely.
And two, and like even though like there's the predatory element, it's also a thing where because he's basically like, because of his fame, you know, and his richness, and like how, you know, just like his celebrity affects him psychologically, he's like mentally he's a child. Yeah. So he can't have a real relationship with women that he meets, you know, out in the world. So in his head, it's like, well, I can only relate to a 14, which, you know,
he just wanted someone to manipulate.
Exactly. No, and it's just like that's the thing that I kept coming back to in this movie, is that like, you know, whenever like men get, you know, financial success, especially like, and especially in doing something like fun, like, you know, being
a rock star,
you know, it just allows them to stay like teenagers forever, you know, as far as like mentally, because they don't have to have any responsibility, and like everything is disposable to them. You know, everything is catered to the women. They just get to be little boys, you know, for all of eternity. Yeah. And it's crazy.
Yeah.
Peter Pan syndrome.
Yeah. Yeah, so they get married eventually after she graduates high school and everything, and you can see that you're seeing Elvis's phases through Priscilla. And she is stuck at home while he goes on tour. She never comes with him when he's on tour. And she gets to read in the newspapers about how, like, you know, all these rumors, quote unquote, I mean, a lot of it did happen, where he was dating people that he was in movies with. There were lots of tabloids and stuff that she's seeing at home. But whenever she broaches the subject of him cheating on her, he gets aggressive and basically tells her not to talk to him about that at all. And he has told her multiple times, like, you have to stay home, like, you have to stay in Graceland, like, you're not coming with me. Like, she petitions multiple times to come with him on tour, or to at least like meet him at a tour destination, and he says no every single time. So obviously, like, he's fucking around. Like, that is clear. And he calls her, every time he calls her, it seems like he's intoxicated. Like, he sounds intoxicated. And
he's just constantly fucked up.
Right. He's constantly fucked up.
Or jonesing.
Right. And well, throughout their relationship, he is giving her drugs. During the first visit that she has to Graceland before she moves there, he gives her a sleeping pill. And at this point, once again, she is 16 years old. He gives her a sleeping pill that knocks her out for 2 whole fucking days of her trip. And because we see this movie from Priscilla's point of view, she goes to sleep and then she wakes up 2 days later, and that's all we see from that time.
Gotcha. It's really interesting because that scene, when it happens, you kind of think like, oh, like it seems like it's just the next morning.
Yeah.
You know, and like she's like had a really heavy sleep.
Right.
You know, and then she's like, no, and Elva's like, no, you've been up for 2 days. Let's go to Vegas.
Right. So yeah, the whole time he's feeding her drugs, he's fucking around, he's being aggressive. He's telling her what she can and can't wear. He's telling her to dye her hair. He's telling her that she needs more eye makeup. They get married. She gets pregnant with Lisa Presley, their one daughter. And while she's pregnant, he doesn't want to have sex with her, of course, because a woman's value is only in what she looks like. And at this point, she is 18 or 19.
Yeah, the timeline.
The timeline starts to get a little messy.
Yeah, once she has a kid, they become a lot. They scrutinize a lot less about what year it is at that point, like
because she's an adult.
Yeah,
barely. But yeah, so this whole time he's been dressing her up like a little doll. He's been manipulating the shit out of her. She has Lisa Presley, and she basically stops being able to take it anymore. His bullshit, and she starts wearing pants. She stops dyeing her hair for him.
She makes some friends. And she tells him that they are getting a divorce. She starts martial arts and like has a whole social life. Because she moves to LA, I think. And she starts living her life and tells him they're getting a divorce, and he's upset about it, but she doesn't give a fuck. And he basically he tries to assault her, like sexually assault her. Thankfully it doesn't happen in that point. And yeah, she ends the marriage. Yeah. And the movie really does just like it's crazy how like the movie literally is like from when the relationship starts to when it ends, you know? And I think it's kind of cool that I feel like there should be more biopics that focus on specific slices in time.
Yeah.
For famous people, because I feel like you can get a lot deeper about like a particular person's life. Like there's a movie I really like called Nowhere Boy. That's, you probably seen me watching. It's about young John Lennon and Paul McCartney, and like when they first meet.
Yeah.
In Liverpool, and like literally it's just like a few months.
Right.
You know, and like you learn about John's mom and like all this stuff, and like you're able to get so much deeper into like who the person is kind of by like just seeing a specific point in time.
Yeah.
With them, you know, and like you know, another thing with that, the kind of last bit of this movie where she starts to regain her independence, I feel like another aspect of why she's kind of able to is because at that point, after she has the baby, I feel like Elvis stops being a presence in her life pretty much.
Yeah.
Because, you know, before that point, whenever he was, you know, at the house or comes back home, you know, he's like taking her to parties and he's taking her drinking, but you know, past that point, he's coming home less. But then when he does come home, he's like, oh, we can't go party, you got the baby, so I'm leaving, you know?
Well, and she's also not nearly as much of an accessory as she was when she was 16 years old. And also, like, she grew up as his wife. And by the time she has a baby, I think that having a baby kind of forces you to extra grow up. So even though she was like a younger mom, she was technically an adult. And like her growth in general had to have been stunted by being his wife so young and like being with him so young. But after having the baby, I feel like that just like puts that shit in perspective and is like, this is actually isn't working for me. And she got a little bit of independence and then ran with it, and that was great. And she was finally able to leave him. This movie I'm gonna read the book, because the book, Sofia Coppola made the movie based on Priscilla Presley's book,
Elvis and Me,
which is called Elvis and Me. And Priscilla Presley is still alive currently. She approved of this script, was a real big fan of this movie, which makes me feel especially confident about the portrayal of her. And the woman herself approves of how she was portrayed, so I'm like more inclined to believe that like this was how it went, or at least I'm sure that being with him was even worse than she's ever written about.
Yeah.
So it was this bad plus some.
And I'm also sure that the movie cut out some like some more explicit and crazy details from the book as well. You know.
I came into this movie being so excited to see it.
Especially after we watched the first half of Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, which came out last year.
Yeah, that was shit.
With Austin Butler.
But I was super excited about this, was super hyped that A24 was doing it. I've never seen any of Sofia Coppola's other movies, but I'm going to now because this was incredible. Priscilla Presley is now my Roman Empire, and I can't stop thinking about her. I loved this movie from start to finish. Elsie and I were both on the edge of our seats throughout the movie.
Literally.
We were in a fairly empty theater, and we just kept looking at each other like mouths agape at the things that were happening. There was
only two other people and another couple in the theater. I kept worrying that like we were going to disturb them.
Yeah, we were just shocked and also like on the edge of our seats. This movie, it was almost like a slow burn horror movie because from the beginning I'm like, no, Priscilla, like don't go to this party, don't meet Elvis Presley, don't visit him. But you know she does, and like the movie was paced so well in my opinion. Like there are scenes of him like verbally abusing her, and then it cuts to like school, she's at school, or like it cuts to, you know, her doing things that people her age would have done, and it like in between these like really energy driven and like emotional scenes with Elvis where he's like telling her how to be, you also have her like having to do math homework. And it was just like, I really appreciated how we didn't ever forget how old she was, because I feel like a lot of times, first of all, men just love children, like women being portrayed as children, and like there's a huge problem in our society with like the infantilization of women, and also like men genuinely being interested in women looking and being as young as possible. And so a lot of the times I feel like in media, when we have protagonists in fiction and in nonfiction media that are literally like underage or close to it, the writers, which are usually men, try to make us forget as soon as possible just how young and impressionable these people are. And you hear a lot of like, oh, she was so mature for her age, which is just not possible. Like a child's a child, and Elvis Presley was a predator. Yeah, and that's it.
He says that to her dad specifically.
He does.
She's wise beyond her years, you know?
Yeah, and like that's bullshit. And it's just so sad because you can see from the outside looking in, like Priscilla was in the perfect position to be groomed by him because she was alone in a new country. All she has is her parents. And she's at like this pivotal age of 14 where all you want to do is hang out with your friends, and she has none. And then this like mega pop star that she and everyone she knows is in love with has a party, and she's somehow invited, and he's interested in what she has to say.
And she just folded like
and
that.
She just folded. Of course she did, because she's a child. And like in all of those early scenes with him, and like just the way it cut a couple times after that first party, like there was a cut scene to her in school, like with a little smile on her face, like writing his name. And it was just like, oh my God, like she's so young. And also like I was just thinking about how like, I mean, I was raised as a girl, and I was thinking about just equating it to like, if there were any chance of me ever meeting at that age a member of One Direction,
if Harry Styles showed up,
if I went to Harry Styles' party and he took an interest in me, like I would do anything. And that's just the nature of being a child. And like it was just so awful because I can just see from the outside as an adult person her falling into this trap and then being stuck there for years.
100%. I want to talk a little bit about the kind of the performances, some of the specific actors in this movie. So yeah, Kaylee Spenny. I'm not sure exactly how it's pronounced. Kaylee Spenny as Priscilla. She was excellent in this movie.
Incredible.
In a lot of ways. I think one of the craziest things for me was like, so I think she's 24. She's 25. And like during the first part of the movie, the first half really, you just buy how young she is at the point. Like she really just looks like almost prepubescent 14, 15. And then, and it's also heightened just by the height difference between her and Jacob Elordi, who plays Elvis in this movie, Nate from Euphoria, who also amazing casting. Well, as soon as we saw the first trailer for this and we saw that he was playing Elvis, we were like, oh my God. Because he's like 6'7", actually he's 6'4", and I think she's 5'2". We looked up. So the height difference also just kind of accentuates that feeling. But then later on in the movie, during kind of the post birth, basically, when she kind of starts coming to her own, like
she looks more like a young professional.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Like you buy her more as an adult, but then also, I think a big thing for me was like how she changed her voice. Like she really made her voice sound like super young and like had that thing. Yeah. And then in the later scenes, like she sounded like an adult woman, you know. And yeah, if she, I remember after we got out of the movie, we were talking about how like at the Oscars, if you know, like I think her and Jacob deserve to get Oscar nominations, but if he does and she doesn't,
right?
Catastrophe.
Well, yeah, because if he does and she doesn't, then we know why. It's literally just because he's a man.
Yeah. Plus, I feel like everybody wants to see that. Like they might do it just because they want to see that heat between him and Austin Butler. As far as like, you know, there's all that online talk of just like, oh, who was the better Elvis?
I don't think it was even a contest. Who was the best Elvis?
Yeah, not even a comparison. Best as far as like just the type of performance. And I liked how he didn't play it over the top with the voice either.
Yeah, no.
Like he wasn't
not like Austin Butler.
Not like Austin Butler, who like traded his voice for it. Yeah, you know, like I really was interested in like how he was always like playing with his hands.
He was very jittery.
Like always like his leg was always shaking or like, you know, whatever. And you could tell he was either, you know, just like coked up or, you know, jonesing for something. And just like he never like looked directly at her. Like he was just, I mean, so what do you think about the performances?
I think that his was really good. I think they both deserve Oscar nominations. For him, you could really tell in like you were saying, where he was always like jonesing, and you could tell. I think he also, in general, I think that Jacob Elordi has a really good like nice face that then can turn quite dark. Mm-hmm. Like there are points where he's
hot in this movie.
Oh, he is. He is. But there are points where he's talking with Priscilla, or like they're just like messing around, and then all of a sudden he gets really dark and he's like, stop it.
Yeah.
And he's like aggressive to her, and I think that he plays that kind of role really well.
Big Homelander energy.
Yeah. So I think that was really good and well played, because like Elvis was charming for the time, and you could really see how it was like a night and day. Like he could just snap. And then for Kaylee Spaney, is that her name? Kaylee Spaney?
Oh, yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Is she American?
She was so good. The part that really struck me about her performance was that her heart is breaking like 30 different times in this movie. It's breaking when he's on the phone with her. It's breaking when she's reading the newspaper. It's breaking when he's being abusive to her in front of her face. It's breaking when she comes out in a dress that she really likes, and he says that he hates it and it's ugly on her. Like, and you can just see that in her face. And in those times, she's not very vocal in any of the scenes where he's being outwardly abusive. And I feel like that's probably quite accurate to what it is like to be in that situation, because you just kind of shut down. But her face like showed you everything that was happening inside her head. Like you could just tell that she was just like so beaten down. And I think that is like, anyone can like say lines with certain affectations or whatever. Like anyone can like say a line like angrily or happily or sadly, but the facial expressions were really it for me in this movie. I think.
Yeah, it wasn't so much as it wasn't really the dialogue itself. Yeah, no, it was definitely like how God, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, no, you could just definitely hear like her desperation, and just like her how, what's the word? She was just so attached to him, and like, and every time she tried to complain about something, you know, or disagree with something, you know, how he would just like threaten to take away her whole world, which is him, because he only allowed her to have him as her world, you know. And you know, there's a lot with this movie that I loved, like stylistically. I really like that we don't ever see him on tour.
Yeah.
Like we
only see what Priscilla sees.
It's 100% from her perspective. Yeah. Like when she's talking to Elvis over the phone, we never cut to what he's doing. Like, cut to him in like a bathroom with like prostitutes or something.
I mean, and that's part of the strength is that we know what he's doing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And like, I this movie probably didn't have the hugest budget because it's still A24. Yeah, so budget $20 million. As far as like, you know, it was really clever how like most of the time we're in Graceland pretty much.
Yeah.
Either like Graceland or LA. And like, it's almost like you could almost do this as a play or something.
Yeah.
As far as like most of the time, like the only other characters really are like some of like Elvis's family, like his grandma and his father. And then Elvis's posse of just fucked up dudes.
Fucked up friends.
Fucked up friends. And I just so many choices, like when he's on tour and she's just alone in this house, there are a lot of shots of her just wandering through this giant house. Yeah. Alone. Maybe like her and her dog on these like giant pieces of furniture, just like waiting for him to come back.
Right.
You know? And then when he's there, he's just like absent to her. Like, I remember one of the craziest scenes was just when he was really getting into the philosophy books.
Oh my God.
You know, and like
it was like mansplaining like yogi stuff. Like some of them were like I think one of the books was like a philosophy of a yogi or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just like I feel like this might sound kind of obvious as far as like I feel like a lot of male directors, I feel like, just kind of show abusive men as like only physical and like only just being the most overt thing. Like I think about like in Get On Up when you see James Brown being oh God, when you see James Brown being abusive, like literally it's just like he's like slaps her and she flies across the room. Whereas, you know, in this movie, like it is all of those moments where he's controlling her and then telling her to wear only the specific kind of dress, you know, or like just kind of doing these subtle things. Or like the biggest one for me, I remember the moment in the movie when she's talking about wanting to get like a part-time job. Yeah. Just because she's not even for the money.
After school, because she's 16.
Because she's 16. And he just goes, oh yeah, you're going to have to forget about that.
Yeah, he says, I don't want a career woman. Yeah. It's either the career or me. And obviously, she's a 16-year-old girl in Elvis's home, and so she picks him. Yeah, I think that that's a good point. I think that male directors don't often delve into what abuse actually looks like. And of course, like, there is a huge spectrum on what abuse in a relationship can be. Like, it can be just physical, but most of the time it's also, if it's not physical, it's emotional and mental, but it can also be all three things. And there are points where he is absolutely physically abusive, but the vast majority of his abuse is psychological and emotional, and he just has these bouts of physical abuse that make it so that she
steps in line,
quote
unquote.
Yeah, and so that she is afraid for those moments of that coming out. Like other times he'll be like, you know, emotionally abusive, and she's like afraid of him because she knows that, like, one time she was just standing there and he threw a chair at her head. So
just for like her telling an opinion about a song,
which he asked for also, because he asked like, hey Scylla, what do you think of this? And she said, I'm not really a huge fan. And he tried to throw a chair. Well, he did throw a chair at her head, and she just narrowly missed it.
Mm-hmm. Almost got directly hit, and then he like apologizes right after, as if
that is another like key point of like the abuse. And also another thing you never see in movies is like how it's like this extremely violent thing or extremely hurtful thing, and then immediately after it's like, oh, come on, baby, I didn't mean that, like, I'm so sorry, I'll never do that again. He immediately like hugs her and she's sobbing and he's like, oh, I didn't mean it, you know I didn't mean it. And it's like, well, you did though.
Yeah, that reminds me of that podcast that we were listening to about Yoko Ono.
Yeah.
You're Wrong About.
Oh yeah, the You're Wrong About podcast,
where they were talking about John Lennon's first wife. I forget her name. Cynthia?
Carol. It's something with a C, I think.
I feel bad. I think it is Cynthia. John Lennon.
We have to look up his first wife's name now.
I don't want to. Yeah, Cynthia Lennon.
Cynthia. Okay.
How like basically after being abusive, he would like get on his hands and knees and promise her that he's gonna change and all that, and he just didn't. God damn, I want to see Sofia Coppola do a Yoko movie. It would be very similar to this, but I think. I feel like it would hit harder. I haven't looked a lot into how this movie has been received. 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. What's its Letterboxd score? Like, I don't know how it's doing. I feel like I haven't heard a whole lot of people talking about it, and I feel like if they like a Yoko John Lennon movie would make a bigger splash.
I also just don't think they could do a Yoko Ono movie until all the Beatles are dead, and also she's no longer alive either, because like I just feel like everybody involved in the situation would have to be dead, because for the difference between this and like Yoko Ono, there's a lot of differences in the relationship and the people and stuff involved, but Yoko Ono maintains to this day that John Lennon was not physically abusive, even though we know for sure he was, through her son and also through other people. We know for sure that he was. And the difference here is that Priscilla Presley like wrote this book and worked with Sofia Coppola on this movie, and like at least feels like she can talk about what happened to some extent. So I just feel like we wouldn't be able to get something like this from John Lennon and Yoko Ono currently, just because I just feel like she has held on, and you can do whatever you want. Like she has every right to, say and feel however she feels about John Lennon. She was married to him. She underwent abuse in that relationship. Like, she can handle that however she needs to handle that. We just wouldn't get this kind of information from her, and I don't think she would let people make a movie or something to this extent.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love the costumes in this.
Yeah,
the outfits.
They are really good.
I'm a big fan of period pieces. This and Pearl. I feel, even though Pearl takes place in like 1918 or whatever.
Yeah, isn't it like the 20s?
Yeah, no, it's like it's something ridiculous, but it's still, Pearl is going for that 50s aesthetic,
right?
Whereas like this like directly takes place in the 50s, and I thought that like all of the outfits and the clothes and like I really loved
the 60s and 70s I think is the when this is. Yeah,
for the most part is the first part. 1959 is when we first meet Priscilla. Yeah, so mostly 60s. But even just down to like a production element, I really liked when she's looking through all these magazines. It's kind of cool, these like old style like print magazines, but it is the actor.
Yeah, I thought that was cool too.
And like all these old photos and all this stuff. I'm like, oh, that's really cool that they went through all that work to.
Yeah.
Really, really put it in, and I really like that too, because I feel like in some biopics, they will have like a picture of the real person in like a poster in the movie, or
it'll be like
something.
The back of their head or something. Like, it'll be like kind of weird.
Michael Jordan in Air.
Yeah. Oh my god. But yeah, no, I agree. I really love a period piece, and also I really liked how this movie opened with her getting ready for him. Because after thinking about it, like when we first see her in the beginning, in the opening scenes, it's just like her feet going into shoes and like her
Putting
eyes,
on her eyeliner.
like putting on her eyeliner and like fixing her hair, putting on hairspray, and it's all of the modifications that Elvis requested of her. So it was like she was originally a brunette, and he made her dye her hair black and made her do these like really elaborate hairstyles, and he also told her she needed way more eye makeup and stuff. So in the beginning of the movie, we just like see these little snippets of like parts of her body and her altering them for him. And then we meet her as a child.
Yeah.
When she's 14 and just in Germany at this army base. And I think that was an interesting way to open it, because when you first are watching the movie and you're watching the opening, you don't know what time period we're in and like why she's doing this yet. So I feel like on a rewatch that would be particularly cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited to rewatch this movie as well, especially because I want to pay more close attention to the sound design and the soundtrack, because I really liked the soundtrack in this movie too. There were some good needle drops, and that's definitely gonna be something I pay more close attention to. I had no idea that they had basically like whole ass towns and American restaurants on like army bases, like outside.
I didn't know that either.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's insane. Yeah, I guess next thing I wanted to ask, as far as like this movie specifically, did you have any complaints about it? Anything you didn't like, or you think they might have should have done differently, or anything you would have liked them to dive more into? Something that like you wish you kind of could learn more about?
I feel like the last bit where she's getting her independence was kind of quick for me. Like post having her daughter, like I feel like I would have liked to see maybe there wasn't though, but I would like to see maybe like what was the last straw really for her. But also maybe there wasn't one. Like maybe it was just everything and she finally got some space from him and thought about it. Like maybe it wasn't like a thing. But I just felt like toward the end there was like it was just maybe a little bit rushed, but I don't even think rushed is the right word, because I feel like I liked the pacing of the whole movie.
Yeah, no, it was really tight. Like it's under 2 hours. Yeah,
which I love because I can't sit still for too long.
Maybe they released the Priscilla 3-hour extended cut.
I'll watch it.
Yeah.
For this movie, I'll watch it.
Absolutely. I think Sofia Coppola is known for all of her movies are pretty short.
I love that.
I remember
keeping me, my ADHD self, on track.
After we were watching the movie, we were looking up Francis Ford Coppola, her father's films, and like how long all his movies are. And all the Godfather movies are like 3 hours each.
She was sick of growing up watching his movies be too long, so she decided to make hers shorter.
The only other movies of her that I've seen is Lost in Translation, which is probably one of her more best, like, well-known films. And I saw it once in high school, and I just don't think I understood it.
Yeah.
But now, as an adult, going back and rewatching it, I'm sure it's gonna like I'll be able to take a lot more from it. I really like watching movies that like I was told as my film bro hipster like community to like watch these movies, and I just did not have the life experience to
appreciate them,
to pick it up. Yeah. Like,
what did you think of Priscilla? Like, did you have any things that you think could have been better?
Anything could have been better. I mean, I feel like I think maybe just more details about, and it's, the movie's not supposed to. I think if anything, it just kind of made me more curious about certain things in Elvis's life, like as far as like Elvis's dad as a character.
He was weird.
Yeah, he was weird and he was a creep, and I feel like there was more going on as far as like, you know, and maybe the reason why we don't know these things is because like for example, when she did get knocked out for 2 days, like I would love to have known what actually happened, but that's probably something that she never found out.
Right.
You know, so it's not even necessarily really a thing with the movie. It's more just like a
I also liked her point of view.
Yeah, no, just like not knowing because she doesn't know. And like I'm trying to think what else as far as like I kind of expected. I wanted to see Elvis die on the toilet in this movie.
Oh my
I
god.
wanted to see him shit himself to death a little bit, but that's just me.
Yeah, this movie made me want to Ouija board him back to life just to punch him.
Yeah.
Just to punch his face in, because what a piece of shit.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I just think it was like a really perfectly executed drama, just like a really interesting story. I think the performances are great. And something like we talked about, this is what Men should have been.
Yeah, the movie Men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is like a big thing to it too. I feel like you don't need you do not need to know much about Elvis or Priscilla Presley to understand this movie. Like, other people like Michael Jackson doesn't pop in, or like other, Buddy Holly doesn't walk in for a cameo or whatever. Like, as far as
it's not about that.
Yeah, like it's just like a tight story about two people. It could, like, you could make it about like a fictionalized celebrity or something, and it would still work the way it is. It just so happened to be, but as far as like a movie, like obviously it's based on like a real person's memoir, but I'm just excited to see what Sofia Coppola does next, and definitely gonna look more into her movies. Now that we're at the end ish, we haven't talked about our teas yet.
Oh, true.
We're doing tea time at the end. We're drinking tea.
I had Bigelow brand decaffeinated green tea because it's kind of late and I want to sleep good.
I had Yogi elderberry lemon balm immunity plus stress.
Oh, you like that one?
I do like that one. It tastes.
I got you that one.
I love it. It tastes really nice. Immunity's good because I got some cold sores right now.
Yeah.
Because I got the mouth herp. I'm like a.
He's got the herp.
Exactly. And then also stress, just because I'm a stressed out lad.
Stressed out guy.
Stress boy. So that's pretty much it for this episode. What are we going to talk about next?
I don't know.
What's coming out? Hunger Games is coming out at the end of the month.
That's true.
We're probably going to talk about that. Next episode is going to be me and Joseph talking about John Woo movies.
Yeah.
If you want to, you're probably going to be here while we're watching those if you want to hop in on that.
Probably, but I might be doing other activities.
Yeah. It's guy time. It's boy time.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, folks, so much for listening. Feel free to check out the other episodes. This is episode 5, so we're getting it there.
Go watch Priscilla and love it.
Go watch Priscilla. It's great. I'm gonna rewatch Elvis, like the Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, just to get the comparison.
I won't.
Yeah, it'll just be me. So have a nice night, y'all.
So, here we go. With child expectations and complexes, the police authorities at James Thomas believe that there's a number of things with him, and her partner is the horrible murder of Walter. Grant everybody that I'm here to walk out. Oh, please tell me where this going. Please tell me. Sorry, I don't know. How long is it? Mile and a half? What could I done in here? 3 tickets to Albany on 6 o'clock train tonight. What do you think? Special agent, special agent.